If you could only see through my eyes.
Maybe a couple of 13, 14 minutes after 12 noon on the Common Man program. I really need to play golf. Really, really bad.
It's got to be right around the corner.
Well, I thought it was right around the corner about 2 weeks ago, and it keeps snowing. Somebody told me, I didn't look at the weather page yet on either Fish Wrap Factory. Are we getting 6 inches of snow tomorrow? Is that what I was told?
No, we're not, are we?
That's what I was told. No, it just says snow possible. I think we're playing next week. I really need to play golf. It's a big year for me, too. It's a big year for a lot of people. Big year for Worlds, big year for Cleaver. It's not a big year for the limo guy because he doesn't care whether he plays well or not. It's not a big year for asthma guy because he doesn't care if he plays well or not. Those guys like the social aspect of the game. And I don't think it's a big year for you either because I don't think you care enough about golf to make it a big year for you.
It's a big year for me on the felt.
On the what?
On the felt.
When did you start playing pool? And it's a big year for my brother because he's decided he's going to try to become the best short game player in the business, which is where he's got to make up his shots. Do you know who Michelle Bachmann is?
I am aware.
The name rings a bell with you. She is, and I'm in her congressional district, by the way, and I have no problems admitting I did not vote for her. I would vote for you before I would vote for Michelle Bachmann. I would vote for Johnny King. Well, she just bothers me. You know, remember when she was just hanging on the president at his one of those State of the State addresses? He walks through after he's done with the state of it. You know, God bless America, and everybody rises and gives him the standing ovation, and he walks through and slaps people on the back. Remember, she put her hand on his shoulder and left it there for like 4.5 minutes, like a little schoolgirl. It was embarrassing. She's the one. Remember that during some, I think it was some gay BL. Is it BLT? What is it? GLBT? Gay.
OBGYN?
Lesbian, bi, gender, transsexual thing. And that her and her buddy were hiding in the weeds, watching it from behind some bushes. And she was the one when they did a story on her. You know, she's against gay marriage, you remember. Though when they did a story on one of the fish wrap factories, I believe it was in the West Side, they had a picture of her with her daughters at home. And her daughters, it was almost like she did this on purpose. She had her daughters, and that's what the caption of the picture said, that her daughters were, they were playing, and they had a doll, a female doll, like a Barbie doll, marrying a stuffed dog. So in other words, it's okay for having kids do make-believe with a dog, an animal marrying a woman, but two people of the same sex that happen to be in a loving, caring relationship. She doesn't think they should be allowed to get married. It's the most bizarre thing. Well, that goes back to, I don't want to get into the controversy, because why it's controversial is beyond me, why that should be. It's one of those things, like if you belong to a club, you like the advantages of belonging to that club, and you don't want people that haven't paid their dues to belong to that club. See what I'm saying? And for some reason, people that are married, whether they're married or not, but it seems like people that are married and married in the so-called traditional way, where it's man and wife, it's because they don't. They don't. The only thing I can think of is they don't like gay people, and so because of that, they don't want them to be. They know that they can't actually like herd them all up and put them in internment camps, which is, I think, what a lot of people would like to do. So what they do instead is they try to, well, we can at least do this. We can pass laws so they can't be like us. Sort of like, I'll have my ball, but you can't play with it. It's just bizarre, but we don't want to go down there. But the reason I bring her up is while we are mired in a war in Iraq, war on terrorism, while we have a housing crisis, right, with a mortgage crisis, right, while we have we have problems in this country, correct? Right? Deficits, health care, education. She actually spent time as an elected official putting together legislation. She introduced a piece of legislation. Can you imagine? Did she have to stand up in front of all the elected representatives and say, I'd like to introduce the Light Bulb Freedom of Choice Act? The Light Bulb Freedom of Choice Act is what she's wasting valuable time with in Washington, D.C. The bill seeks to repeal the nationwide phase-out of conventional light bulbs. I had no idea they were actually going to phase out conventional light bulbs, but apparently they are. Apparently there's this fancy pants light bulb that uses like a quarter of the energy that a regular light bulb does, though there are some problems because there's a little bit of mercury contained in it. And so you got to actually, which this could pose a bit of a problem, I suppose, because it's hard to get people to recycle just glass in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recycle?
No.
Do you have recycling?
I think so.
Abilities where you are, but you just decide not to. That's okay. You don't have to.
I just haven't investigated enough to figure out how to do it.
I go ahead and do it. Whether and maybe I'm a lemmings. Maybe I'm just maybe maybe it's because I actually somewhere in here. Can somebody answer this me too? Does everybody agree that there is some global warming going on? We just can't agree if any of it's... Isn't the controversy, yeah, there is some global warming, but it's not man-made. Right? Isn't that the controversy? Maybe somebody can help me out on that, because somewhere in here... This was a front-page story, by the way, Fish Wrap Factory, west side of the river today. Michelle Bachmann... in recent remarks to a gathering of Sherburne County Republicans, which was reported in the West Sherburne Tribune, that would be the fish wrap factory on the west side of Sherburne County, Bachmann called any human connection to global warming, quote, voodoo, nonsense, hokum, a hoax. What's hokum? Could you look up the word hokum, intern guy? Hokum. Hokum. Now, again, I've not done enough investigation into global warming to decide if it's, again, and it seems to run along, if not party line, it certainly is running along. It runs along, what do you call a conservative or a liberal? You don't call them late for dinner. We got crackpot conservatives and loony liberals. Those are the ones on each end of the far end of each fringe, right? It seems to be that. It seems like to be either if you are under the opinion, if you are of the opinion that global warming is due in part because of human beings, you're a lunatic liberal. If you believe like Michelle Bachmann does, that there is no human connection at all to global warming, I think you're a crackpot conservative. Because I think there is evidence that it just depends upon how far you go with it, right? Some people think all global warming is due to human beings, and others think that none of it is due. And then you have people in between, right? Isn't there some evidence that there's some? I don't know. I mean, I got it because it seems like I'm told that there's overwhelming evidence that there is, but she apparently doesn't think there is at all, which I'm not sure. But the whole point of taking out legislation, she called this an issue of science over fads and fashions, is what she called it. Goes on to later on say in the article, I should have highlighted. Oh, she says, Congress tends to jump on whatever the current buzz is in the 24-hour news cycle. She's got it all figured out, doesn't she, Michelle? She's got it all figured out what Congress does. There's a 24-hour news cycle buzz, and they just start to pass laws regarding whatever that. But she doesn't, because she's different than the rest of them. In a letter to congressional colleagues earlier this month, Bachmann asked for support of her legislation to reverse the mandate unless a comptroller general report shows clear economic, health, and environmental benefits from the switchover to fluorescent lights. Her letter says that the energy bill forces consumers and businesses to use only light bulbs chosen for them by the government, and that further study is simple due diligence. They're afraid of the mercury, apparently, that's in the light bulbs. That's her fear. Though, and again, I'm not saying that Julia Bovee, who is a spokeswoman for the National Resources Defense Council, because more than likely she's one of those lunatic liberals, but she says, quote, there are 200 times more mercury in each filling in Congresswoman Bachmann's teeth than there is in a compact fluorescent light bulb. And I think there is a brain 200 times larger in an ant than there is in Michelle Bachmann's head. This woman is absolutely, positively out of her mind. I cannot believe. She goes, I was just outraged that Congress would want to substitute his judgment for the judgment of the American people. It struck me as a massive Big Brother intrusion into our homes and our lives. It's a light bulb! This is what she's wasting taxes. And you elected her. There were people in my district that elected. This is what she's working on in Congress right now. This is the one that keeps her up at night. We've got all sorts of problems in this world. I mean, real serious problems. And her legislation, is she going to campaign on that for re-election? And because of me, you get to use the same old light bulbs you've been using for 100 years. When was electricity invented?
About then.
When is the light bulb going to go off in her head that you're not meant to be a congresswoman, you're not meant to be a congresswoman, go back to Stillwater and just live the life that you did, spying on gay, lesbian, transgender people? She's just bizarre. That's what she's wasting our time with. Light bulbs. And people wonder why we're all fed up with Congress. Why people are just fed up with government in general. It's I don't even know where to go. We got a couple of phone calls coming in on it. Light bulbs, global warming. Because on the global warming thing, I really don't know, because there's a couple people in this town, media people, that talk about global warming almost every day. And I've never talked about it because I really don't know enough about it. I'm hoping to kind of get educated here a little bit. I mean, there was a story in the paper today that Antarctica, ice chunk 7 times larger than Manhattan, collapses, imperiling the sheet. Says chunk of Antarctic ice about 7 times the size of Manhattan suddenly collapsed, putting an even greater portion of glacial ice at risk. Satellite images showed the runaway disintegration of a 160 square mile chunk in western Antarctica. It had been there for hundreds, maybe 1,500 years. Why did it happen? This is the result of global warming, said British Antarctic Survey scientist David Vaughan. Is David right, or is this part of a global liberal conspiracy, environmental crackpot? What's that ELF group? Environmental Liberation Federation or something? Didn't Kathleen Salaya belong to that at one time? Didn't she try to shoot Ewell Gibbons? I thought she did, but maybe she did. You saw that story about her today, didn't you? The latest twist in that? You're going to tell me you didn't see it? No, look at, I'm not even making it up. It was in the paper today.
You're getting way too controversial this early in the show.
Well, this isn't even controversial. This is just fine. I just want to know about global warming. I want to know if people are as angry about the change in light bulbs as I am. Let's march on Washington. I want to save our light bulb. I'm glad Michelle Bachmann is doing the work that everybody else. She's got the courage. See, a lot of legislators don't have the courage to stand up to that. No, I'm not making it up on. I'll get to. I got a break. I'll get to the latest Kathleen Salaya. I call her Babyface Salaya, and I call her Kathleen because that's her real name.
You don't have a good vibe with her?
Well, no, but that's her real name. Her criminal name is Kathleen Celaya. We'll take a break. We'll come back. It's a Common Man program on the Fan.